Greetings and welcome again to the Force4Good Podcast. I'm Dennis Brooks, Senior Superintendent of Police here at the Jamaica Constabulary Force. This week, my guests are Detective Inspector Paulette Winter Crossfield. She's the station manager at the National Strategic Anti-Gang Division. And her colleague, Detective Sergeant Grace Fraser Lawrence, she is a sub-officer there. Well, this week, our focus is on a very serious group of crimes. We're focusing this week on Jamaica's fight against kidnapping and extortion. Two crimes that are very concerning in and of their own right, and especially when combined. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Let me begin with you, Detective Inspector. This area that you are in charge of falls where within the context of the Jamaica Constabulary Force?
All right, so it falls within NSAD, National Strategic Anti-Gang Division, which is a division under Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC.
And so when we look at it within the broader CTOC ecosystem and as NSAD, why does kidnapping and extortion feature and is conceptualized as a potential gang or organized crime phenomenon?
All right, so when we speak of kidnapping and extortion normally is done by more than three persons. And we know gang have to do with three persons. Very rare you will have a kidnapping or extortion that you'll have one person. So that's how it falls under NSAD, which treats with gangs and organized criminals in Jamaica.
Now, I know that phenomenon change. So over time, you might have had a particular conceptualization of what a crime is defined as. But for the purposes of your work, what is a kidnapping? Because once upon a time you heard a kidnapping is only a kidnapping if there is a ransom demanded. Is that the case? Because there's kidnapping versus abduction.
All right, so we no longer speak of abduction. Abduction now falls under the Sexual Offences Act, where persons are abducted for some sexual gain or marriage. When we speak of kidnapping, it falls under the Offences Against the Persons Act as also under the common law. So the Offences Against the Persons Act, Section 70, speaks of kidnapping where a person is forcible, taken away against their will, and a ransom is demanded. The one under the common law is where the person is taken away against their will, no ransom is demanded, but they may take them, say, to the ATM or wherever for them to withdraw money.
And that is still a kidnapping.
Kidnapping.
Indeed.
So, Detective Sergeant, for those who maybe use the word a little bit too loosely, what is extortion?
Well, extortion has to do with threats. So there are threats made against a person to either pay, to pay something. And we have extortion so prevalent in Jamaica right now, especially in the transport industry and even in the small business enterprises, especially in the St. Catherine region, whereby persons are extorted or monies are demanded from them to avoid some form of harm being done to them, or also they may include their family. And even this can result in kidnapping if the monies are not paid or if they don't abide by what they ask.
So clearly the two things are related, but let's, for the purposes of a conversation, let's try to maybe delineate and treat each of them separately and then bring it back together. So let's look at kidnapping. I'm curious because there are, as you mentioned, being forcibly taken to an ATM, and we've seen cases where that is so, or being forced to give over your banking information so that people can access your cards. What are some of the trends that you see today in terms of how kidnapping is manifesting in the cases that you investigate?
All right, so the trend that we are seeing now is where there are taxis or persons, motorists, operating motor vehicles pretending to be taxis, and then persons who are so unsuspected, not knowing that it's not taxi, enter the vehicle, and then they are held at gunpoint in the vehicle and taken to ATM, forced to give their banking information for the criminals to withdraw monies. Right. So that are just the most common trend we are seeing now.
Is it something that is prevalent?
I wouldn't say it's prevalent now, but it is on the rise. A few years ago, we had it where we'd consider it as prevalent, but
Yes.
we realize it's coming back now.
Yeah.
Mm. So, Detective Sergeant, again, the trends ebb and flow, and so it was something that we saw a lot of, and it was on the decline. I don't know is there a geographical space that you're seeing as a flashpoint?
Well, in the past, because it's on the decline now, but in the past it was mainly where the tertiary students take bus, the tertiary up by the Papine area, where the UA, the UTech persons take their taxis. Also in New Kingston, we also had some on in Agley Park Road. We also had some in Mountain View, and it even stretched on at the time to St. Thomas. So yes, we had those in those areas.
And is there anything that persons could see or do to say, hey, this looks suspicious. This is out of the ordinary. These are some of the telltale signs that something is awry.
So what we can say is that there is no signal at the moment that they will see, but we advise that you ensure that you take taxi that are we consider red plate, because we are not getting any report of that. So we advise that you take the regularized vehicles, transportation. We also advise that you take photographs of the vehicle and the license plate, and if it's possible, take a photograph of the driver and send it on to a trusted relative or friend. Yes, because
But Sergeant Fraser Lawrence, would you also suggest that maybe the utilization of technology? Sometimes I see somebody send me their location, and I'm just saying, I just noted. Has that proven to be effective in the sharing of your live location?
Yes, it's important in our daily lives as people who are going about our daily lives, as I said before, to share your location with somebody that you trust, with a family member. If you're married, your husband, your wife, your spouse, share it, because you don't know what can happen. I am objecting to sharing your location in the public domain, because
Definitely.
right,
Yeah.
because that can make you a target. So if you're sharing with your family your whereabouts, that is essential. It also helps us in our investigations.
Indeed. And when we look at kidnapping, I know the word is kidnapping, but definitely there's no age demographic that must be satisfied. But is there a demographic that we see it most prevalent with in terms of victimology?
not really. If we speak about because we have fake kidnapping. If we speak about fake kidnapping, then we can say yes, because most of those kidnappings are done by teenagers, reported.
Fake
Yes,
kidnapping.
fake kidnapping, right? So you have teenagers who go out with their male friend for whatever reason, spend days, and then when they want to return home, they make contact, either them or they ask someone to make contact with family members to say that they are kidnapped and demanding money for a release.
Yes.
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 So that is what we have when we speak about the
But
age
then,
demographic.
but then that requires a broader conversation about the relationship with parents and teens, and because you have to ask what would cause a teen to feel that they need to go through such lengths? Are we seeing where we're wasting law enforcement time pursuing fake kidnappings?
Yes, creating public mischief is what is classified as and what you can be charged with, right? Because, of course, we are going to use the resources of the Jamaica Constabulary Force to try and bring you home safely. And whilst we're investigating, even though we assume nothing, But still, whilst we're investigating, we tend to, because the crime in action, so things are unfolding as we're investigating. So sometimes we will see what is happening, but however, we still have to make sure that the hostage, so-called hostage, is returned safely. And upon doing that and using our resources, yes, we prosecute when necessary.
If there was a message that you would send to persons, to parents, to young people, to women, to be more vigilant, to advise them on how they can, target harden themselves, what would be that message?
The message is really a general message. It's one of safety, right? Be aware of your surroundings. I often see persons on their cell phones even while walking, when they're in the bus, when they're on the taxi. They are not aware. They are totally oblivious to what is going on around them. So that's one of my main things to them. Be aware of your surroundings, be very vigilant, and be alert. I will also tell them to, when it comes on to their children, they ensure that they tell their children to ensure that they are aware of what's going on. Do not talk to strangers, right? Do not give out the information about the family to any stranger, right? Do not post your, as I had said before, and I would reiterate, do not post your live location. Do not send information to persons that you are right there in the public. Also, create a family password for children. And not just for children, but for the family. If this password or this code is not used, treat those persons who say they come for you as suspicious. Those are certain things that is just general, and persons should be aware of.
What are the locations that we see kidnappings tend to arise out of? So is it a school gate? Is it a taxi stand? Is there anywhere that we've seen consistency, or is it?
Well, it's general,
Right.
but if we speak about the children, it's really, they're saying that when they take the taxi would put something over their face, and from that they don't know where they are and all of that, right? So those are the reports we get from children who report to their parents that they are kidnapped.
Let's shift attention now to something that is a major concern. Persons who are from St. Catherine know the word very well, extortion. Persons downtown know the word very well, extortion. Some businesses just give up and decide that they're going to pay it, and it becomes a quote unquote victimless crime card. Nobody now talk. And some of the times I find that it is a problem because there is the perception of quid pro quo, where I am getting some amount of security, and so I am paying it, and I'm not going to talk on myself, and so it's something that bubbles below the surface. Is that your observation as well?
Yes, it's my observation, because persons are unwilling, I would say unwilling, to come forward and report to the police. And I believe they're unwilling because of fear.
Yes.
Fear of retaliation, fear of crime, fear of the fact that they would have to pack up their business and leave. But we have a system in place. We have the Witness Protection Program. Many may say it will not give them the leverage to live the life they used to live. They won't be able to take their business with them. But those are the systems that we have in place to assist in that regards. And so we encourage persons to come forward and to report these cases of extortion, because without a report, we cannot proceed. Extortion falls under the Larceny Act, and under the Larceny Act, we must have a complainant. We must have a statement in order for us to prosecute.
Mm-hmm. But let me ask you, Sergeant, because there are some people who say, I don't have nothing to worry about, because me's not a wholesaler. But it can happen to a taxi man, it can happen to a fish vendor, it can happen to a person who runs a business at Helshaw. There are so many ways, and it can manifest.
Right. And we have seen that in Jamaica. Well, it's quite prevalent. Like, the persons in the transport industry are targeted to pay repeatedly, to pay what they call a fee, or they tax them to pay monies in order to operate in the space. And it's not just for persons in the transport industry, as you have mentioned, it's also persons that operate and just have small businesses. So yes, we do have those, but we are, as my inspector said, we are asking persons to come, because we do have measures in place that we can actually offer to them, or we can say to them, okay, this is what is going to happen, so that we can help to mitigate from them getting harmed, being harmed.
Is there a quantum that we can attach to the impact of extortion on the Jamaican economy? Are we talking about millions of dollars here that is being generated?
Well, we know that it's in the billions, but we don't have a figure right
It's in
now.
the billions of dollars annually.
Billions.
Because we're talking about, there's Kingston extortion, there's St. Catherine extortion, there's St. James, and there are some areas that the impact is bigger than.
Bigger, especially in St. Catherine, Spanish Town.
And I have heard in the past commitments made to break the back of this racket, but why is it so resilient?
Well, there are a lot of things that we have to take in consideration, right? We had started some time ago. We had started to try to regularize the persons who were considered to be backup men within the park, where they would be loading the taxis or the bus and all of that. We tried to regularize it. It really fell through. So it's really have to take in a lot of stakeholders. A lot of stakeholders have to be on board with this, buy into this, in order for it to really work.
All right. So when we look at the manifestations, though, because we also want to shine the light, because a part of the challenge is that persons are able to thrive in darkness. How might we sensitize people to the fact that they are being extorted? Some of the times when they don't think that they are, because would you say it can take different manifestations, different forms?
Yes, it can take different forms when persons come around to extort. They normally, persons, especially business persons, need to be aware of the subtle ways that they do things. They may come around and ask you for protection, that I can protect you from certain criminal elements, when they are indeed the said criminal elements that they're trying to offer protection from. We also have where they come and they issue letter to pay this amount of money, or you need to relocate, or or they make some kind of threats to say that you will be harmed. Those are the main ones that happened. Of course, persons get phone calls. They get also text messages and WhatsApp messages and we have some recently where persons come to report from business organizations that they've gotten threats via WhatsApp messages to say that, okay, you will be killed if such and such, if you don't pay this amount of money for operating in the space.
But what about, I'm doing a construction project and I get a call or a notification, or someone comes on the site and says that this project can't continue unless I hire 2 people from who have been designated by this person. Is that a form of extortion? Because I didn't plan to pay these 2 people.
You didn't plan to hire them.
I didn't plan to hire them, rather. Yes.
Right.
Yes, indeed. It's a form of extortion. Once a demand is made, an unwarranted demand, because they didn't put a job there. They are not the one doing the construction. They are not the director of the construction site, so they shouldn't be going to ask to say employ this person or employ that person.
Yes.
So it is extortion. Once you go and make any demand to gain for yourself or other person, it is
Extortion.
with threats.
Inspector, how are we getting better at it? So we speak of the transformations that are taking place in the organization. We speak of technology and intelligence gathering improving. How has the use of intelligence and technology aided in the effort against these crimes?
Well, without going into much detail.
Please, yes.
Yes, it does assist us, technology and intelligence, because it assists us to unearth witnesses, evidence, and it helps us to see what is really going on during the time that these crimes are being committed. Because these crimes are considered to be crimes in motion, kidnapping and extortion, because whilst those crimes are being committed, the police are carrying out their investigation, right? So technology really assists us and intelligence in that regards, because it also helps us to identify the suspects in these cases.
Indeed. I would imagine that in some cases that there needs to be a considerable use of technology in order to make advancements. But I would say, based on the information that I've heard, that we have made advancements. We have been successful in our investigations. How successful has NSAD been in policing these kinds of criminal activity?
I would say we have a 100% success rate.
Indeed.
And why we consider it a 100% rate is because our primary objective when treating with these cases, especially kidnapping, is the safe release and return of the hostage.
Indeed.
Yes.
100% success rate. Is that like 100% of 10 cases?
Certainly. All cases of kidnapping that are reported to us,
Yes.
once we start our investigation and we have our negotiation going on
Yes.
with all of our trained officers, we have the hostage is released and returned safely to their
Could you
relative.
say maybe how many cases you handle per year?
All right, so for last year, we had 18 cases reported, right? 18 cases reported. We have to investigate all
of them,
cases
indeed.
until the alleged hostage is returned home, whether it be fake or not. Yes. So we had 18 cases reported last year. 2 of them were really genuine persons. So, but all cases,
Are treated.
persons return home safely. And we have 4 this year. One person we charged 6 persons this year for those offenses. 2 of them were genuine, 2 children as usual, as we had spoken about, but 2 were genuine, and we charged 6 persons in those 2 cases. Yeah.
How significant would you say, how important would you say it is for the securing of successful prosecution in terms of dismantling criminal organizations who utilize extortion and kidnapping as part of their modus operandi? How important is it to get the prosecutions done?
It is very important, because what I would say that once we have a successful prosecution, the public confidence, it strengthens the
Strengthens,
public
indeed.
confidence, right, in the justice system,
Indeed.
right? That's what it does for the public, right? And it creates a safer environment for the public, because they now know that once these crimes affect them, they are able to report it, and persons would be held accountable.
Indeed, because it actually disrupts the criminal enterprise and the organizations and the activities that they do on a daily basis.
I know that the head of NSAD is Deputy Superintendent Susan Bruce, who is an attorney at law herself. How closely does NSAD work with like the judicial process, the prosecutors, the Department of Legal Services here?
Very closely. All cases, we work closely with the Office of Director of Public Prosecution. Yeah, we have case reviews with them. Yes.
I think that's so important for persons to know that we manage the process very well to put together a strong case.
Yes, indeed it is.
Yes, we do. And we also, the role that we really play in that is that we also have, where we give expert testimonies. We also, we also work closely with the Witness Protection Program, where we do witness management, especially when there is a gang trial going on. So we work closely with them.
Speaking of working closely and strategic partnership, what about the relationship with communities? How important is it in strengthening that kind of collaborative effort?
Very important, because when we have collaboration with the community, they are able to pass on information to us, valuable information. They act as the eye and ear for us.
Indeed.
So they pass on information to us, and in so doing, we'll have a safer environment. Yes, because the power of the criminals will be decreased.
Subdued, yeah.
Yes.
I am interested in people being more sensitized, people being more aware, but I am more interested in that awareness causing something to happen. If people become more aware, what is your hope that we would be able to do better? In all of us in our various responsibilities.
Awareness, and awareness is very important. It's very foundational. The more informed that a society is, the less vulnerable they are. They become more empowered to actually resist, to report criminal activities. And it also decreases the fear factor that is plaguing our society at this time. So when a society becomes aware of what to do, what not to do, it helps us so much in solving this plague of kidnapping and extortion.
Definitely. So finally then, when we look at this phenomenon as a whole, kidnapping, extortion, do we feel like we're winning the fight? Do we feel like we're getting better at it? Do you feel like, I mean, there are days when you feel defeated because of, a sad case comes to your desk, but how are we doing?
I think we're doing pretty fine with, especially with kidnapping, because as I say, all kidnapping cases that comes to us, we investigate. Even if during the investigation we may be assumed, which we ought not to, but if we are doing it for years, we would pick up some things, right?
Indeed.
But we do it up until the end, and the person is released and sent back home.
But Sergeant Fraser Lawrence, the issue is that a whole heap of people who are being extorted talk to them now.
Wow. I want to implore persons that it's important not to give in to these extortioners, these culprits, these persons who come to you and say, all right, listen, if you don't pay this amount of money, you can't operate yourself. I know of the fear factor, and I know that you are intimidated. However, the police, when you actually work with the police, when you actually report the crime to us and we start to do our investigation, we can honestly sit here and tell you that things will happen. Persons will be prosecuted. We have the judiciary system that we work well with, and we will ensure that things are done.
All right, and I think that's a great point on which to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining me. My guests have been Detective Inspector Paulette Winter Crossfield, the station manager at the National Strategic Anti-Gang Division, and Detective Sergeant Grace Fraser Lawrence, sub-officer at NSAD. This has been the Force for Good podcast. Until next time, take care.